Hello, everyone. Welcome to Gray Blanket Season.
Great, it's a great blanket season. That's an outstanding way to to describe it.
Yeah.
And on a not so gray day here in Kansas, it's November 14th. The year, it's 2024 still. Welcome aboard, everybody. Listen to Crushing Iron Podcast. And this is episode 814.
Yep, all day long. 814.
814 all 814. Day.
Hitting you up from the 814.
Now, when you say gray blanket season, are you talking about like our focus on keeping things in the gray? Are you talking about your favorite blanket? Or are you talking about the sky?
It's the sky. That's just a term.
Yeah, the constant gray blanket over the sky.
Yeah, it hits about mid-November, stays till about the end of January or February. It's sort of like, wait, that's the sun.
Is that what the sun looks like? Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm. That's definitely why you put the hoodie up and just come out in the spring a different person. You know,
exactly.
You want to
hibernate, look up. Get things ready, address things, and come back out and rebloom. New year, new you, as the New Year's resolutions people like to call it. We got a quick and dirty podcast for you today. We are gonna do. It's not an open to the public Q&A, but we popped into our closed active athlete group for our current coached athletes last week and tried to pick their brain on some topics they would like to hear. And we're going to discuss those today since we skipped out on doing that on Tuesday. And I got to make things a little bit shorter today as we've got one of our swim camps going on here. Got some athletes coming in town to improve on their swim. So I got a little bit of prep to do for that. So might be brief. We'll try to make it full of power. First question from good old Coach Chuck Knuth. And this is obviously not for him, but the question is, and this is, I think we've probably done 3 or 4 podcasts about this, but I think it holds true for every person, at least at some point in your, triathlon hobbyist career. The question is overhyping a race in your head and then the letdown when it isn't what you'd hoped. Hypothetical.
Chuck.
Yeah.
Is that what it means? What I think it means?
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. And so Chuck, one of our longtime C20 an OG athlete and one of our newest coaches, fantastic athlete, fantastic coach, even better dude.
Instagram model.
Is he? I'm not on the Insta, but is he an Instagram model?
Yeah, he had an Instagram lead up all year, I think. I wonder if this is what he's talking about. I don't know. You tell me.
Maybe it is. So yeah, he just did Kona. And I mean, obviously, if you're in the sport of triathlon, not everyone, but a lot of people talk about Kona and the mystique and doing it. And then, it's interesting. You hear different stories when you talk to people who have done the race. And obviously a lot of it's based on their experience. Like, are you going there to, be competitive? Are you going there to check off the bucket list? Are you going there to just, get the job done and appreciate, the journey that you've had in the sport and being able to check such a, enormous goal off your list. But a lot of people have different feelings and different experiences about it. And I think I don't think the race is ever the problem. I don't think the event is ever the problem. I think it's our expectations are the problem. And I think, his wording here, overhype, is the problem. And I think we do that in a lot of things. And I think we do that with people as well. I think we do that with many, many things in our life. We overhype people, whether it be, people that we look up to, jobs that we think we want, and we do that because we really want something to be X, Y, and Z because of what it'll mean to us. And then we put a lot, I know we did a podcast about it. I think it was more about like the post Ironman depression that a lot of people get into, but that's a huge piece of it is you're wanting or looking for something to be something that really it isn't. And we put a lot of expectations on a race or an event or even like a PR, even if it's not race related, we expect to have this like transformation from an experience that doesn't never happen. Or when you're done, sometimes I think people feel leaving. I'm not going to say worse off because I think kind of like we talked about on Tuesday, like sometimes the the hope and the euphoria we feel about being in a process leading into a race oftentimes outweighs the reality of the situation. And I think what happens a lot of times when we put so much emphasis and expectation and excitement on what this might mean to us or be or affect us, and how I'm going to feel when it's over. Man, I don't know. I mean, of course, you have athletes that have, they do these races and then they're like, it blew everything away. They have these, you get total ends of the spectrum, right? You have ones that like it's overhyping, they get a letdown. Other ones that are, like, hey, I was really pumped to go on this race and it blew every expectation I had out of the water. And it was just the most amazing experience and all these kind of things. And, but of course, that's also, I think, like expectations are also like the RPE scale. Like your RPE of 6 might be someone else's 3 and someone else's 10. Same thing with expectations, right? It's the level in which we expect things. And so I think generally overhyping anything is setting yourself up for failure. And I think oftentimes we only have to blame ourselves. Like there's that funny Dr. Pepper commercial that always comes on called that during college football games, and it's called like the hype train, and they're like all aboard the hype train, like as every before the first game of the year, everyone has this, not everyone, but a lot of teams are like, I think we can win it all this year. I think if things like fall right in place, we're going to win it all. So it's just like this commercial where all these fans are on that quote unquote the hype train. We're going to win it all this year. Here we go. And then they're like barely on their way, like, 200 meters down the track. And all of a sudden all their phones go off. And it's like, and it says something like the, starting quarterback, out for the season. And the train comes to a screeching halt. And the conductor's like, everybody off. Just like this abrupt, like, stop. Oh, we're no longer in the hype train. Like this is, reality set in really, really quick. So, I mean, I think there's no real answer to that. I think it's a great subject for everyone to think through, because I think we've all done it in some way, shape, or form throughout the course of our lives. Again, whether it be an event or a job or, I mean, I had a discussion the other day with an athlete who left the job for another job, and as soon as he was like 2 weeks into it, he hated it and wished he had never left. But that's again an example of overhyping something and maybe thinking the grass is green on the other side, and it turns out to be AstroTurf.
Yeah, that's the man. There's this saying, "Wherever you go, there you are," and I just always like that. But I mean, I kind of, because I'm sort of naturally, I try to kind of settle into this idea that, wherever we go, there we are, be in the moment kind of thing, and don't overhype and everything like that. But there's certainly something to be said. I mean, overhype, it's sort of everything, I think, is on a continuum. So if you have on the far right, the ultimate hype, and on the far left, the ultimate non-hype or whatever. And, it's almost like figuring out where that middle ground is, and maybe having a little hype, because there's no doubt in my mind that that you can kind of jack yourself up somehow, because we always talk about in football, the analogy is sort of like the underdog comes out in the first quarter and is just like jacked up and they go crazy and they take a quick lead and it's going to be the big upset and whatever. And then the other team just kind of slowly, like rolls over them like a tank. And then by the end of the game, the real thing happens. But I can almost say that every Ironman I do, I'm pretty hyped in the beginning, but I try to keep it calm. And then about halfway about 80 miles into the bike, I'm like, yeah, this isn't everything I hoped. I mean, I kind of overhyped this bullshit. And certainly by the end of the first loop of the run, the second loop, I'm like, why was I, so pumped about this, because I think it's just, it's the reality of something like that is, it just I don't know. It's something almost you got to think of as an accomplishment, because it's always so painful and difficult, and finding, sort of joy or satisfaction in the process of that race is tough, man. But I think that's where we got to keep our heads sometimes. But I mean, how can you argue with kind of trying to put a carrot out there or something, or getting excited about something? But because I mean, I think we need to shift our mindset sometimes. And there's something about
Right.
electrical flow of getting kind of excited or pumped up that actually is true. You know, it's like that Tony Robbins thing. He says, you know, just change your state. But I think when I don't know if this is what you're talking about, Chuck, but kind of over the course. I mean, you know, it's sort of like when we do our first Ironman, it's all you can think about all year long.
Yeah.
And then if you have, you know, kind of a day that maybe isn't what you saw in your mind, then I could see how that could be a little bit disappointing.
I mean,
because it's overwhelming.
It's somewhat like, you know, having you know, this all-time favorite professional athlete that you just put on like the highest pedestal.
Yeah.
And then you go early to the game, or you stay late after the game, and you're waiting, you know, or they're walking out towards the bus to, you know, to get your autograph from your favorite guy, and he comes by and he looks at you and he walks right past you.
Right. That happened to me with somebody.
You know, I think that was, you told me that story. Because I think we do a lot. Like we overhype events or experiences, and we underappreciate or underhype the result of what happened to us by actually overhyping it and who we are when we got there, right? You know, so I can speak this because I coach Chuck, but you know, overhyping the race in his head about the experience is probably what led him to probably arguably be in the best shape he's ever been in since we started working together.
Well, yeah,
so you might overhype the race and what it's gonna feel like or be like. And again, I can't, you know, speak to that, you know, hypothetically, of course. But it does, I think, allow us to underappreciate or underhype ourselves in what, like you said, there's something to that, right? Like, it's not a terrible thing. But as long as you don't lose sight of the benefits that you've gained along the way to this event, and you don't let it just erase, you know, the previous 99% of what got you there, which was hard work, commitment, being extra excited about a specific event. And even if it doesn't go, even if you have, you know, disastrous race, it doesn't just, you know, erase everything that you did leading up to it. And I think that's the hardest part for athletes in general, even if you aren't overhyping a race, is you take an event in a day that could go any way possible when you go to the start line, and then you just kind of use that as the end of year exam about your whole year, you know, and you get a C, you maybe get a C on your final exam, but the whole rest of the year you had a bunch of A+, you know, and you let that one kind of drive you into the ground and not want to work as hard next year. And that shouldn't be the case, but I think it happens a lot.
What I always find interesting is, you know, a lot of people like to do different races because, you know, I just want to experience or see this place. And my thought is always like, if I want to go see someplace, I just want to go there on a vacation. Because honestly, you know, all races basically feel the same to me. It's not like I'm sightseeing or whatever, but sometimes, you know, I guess the crowd and the people that show up or whatever, the community, you know, I guess it is a good way to go see places. But, you know, if I'm going to go to Europe, I'm not flying over there for, you know, 8 days to race and then hobble around and look at the ruins or whatever. So I don't know. I think, you know, basically Ironman races are kind of the same. It's just a lot of pain out there, and you're looking at the ground half the time anyway, you know, or whatever. So it's
lesson learned. Just don't overhype it.
Yeah. But
speaking of overhyping, Eric Pillsbury, does the Christmas tree go up before or after Thanksgiving? I mean, we've covered this ad nauseum on this podcast.
Yeah, you're going to be happy to know mine is already up.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm the first one to admit that I am not an A+ parent all the time. I was heading home from hockey last night. It's pitch black, obviously, you know, because it's like 5:30. But we're heading home. We're going through a neighborhood to get to our neighborhood. And then he pipes up in the back and he goes, "Why does everyone already have their lights up?" And I said, yeah. I said, it's a little aggravating. He goes, "It's not even Thanksgiving."
Yeah.
And my heart just kind of skipped a beat. I got a little emotional. I said, man, I'm might not do it right all the time, but I am raising you right, son. Because I even have come a little bit, not towards the acceptance piece, but I said, listen, I'm okay with some of the lights because they are pretty. But can we pump the brakes on the Santas in the front yard? It's barely fucking November. I didn't say it to him, but I was like, it's barely November. He said, yeah. He said, what about some blow up turkeys? We don't need blow up Santas. I'm like, yeah, this is
well,
what we're winning.
Yeah.
Yep.
It
A+
is kind of a
parenting right there.
Yeah. Nice tie into the overhype, I guess. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Overhyping it, right?
Christmas and
every
Christmas
kid on
was
Christmas
like really
morning,
Christmas.
overhyping it, right? Overhyping, and it's total let. I'm telling you, that's why Thanksgiving is
think
great.
You get together with all your relatives and argue about politics. It's going to be amazing.
So yeah, especially this year, right? There's gonna be a lot of fun talk, I'm sure, about religion and politics, and then you got everybody's food allergies to go through. Man, can't wait. And then we're just steamrolling past Thanksgiving. But yeah, here we are. Next question from Kristen Dannenberg. I have so much travel and a lot of personal and work stress lately. So how do I manage training when life is so stressful to begin with, when you are already mentally exhausted? Man, I feel like this is everybody, like, 2 or 3 times a year. I think, again, like going back to, like, we all have our different definitions of things. I think we all have our different definitions of what training looks like. And during periods of, mental exhaustion, a lot of personal and work stress, you find athletes can either do nothing or do way too much. Like they're trying to overcompensate, or they let their emotions get the best of them. Instead of going out for a 30-minute run, they go hammer themselves for an hour on the bike to just, let a little bit of steam off. And then they're just destroyed for like 72 hours, right? So it might feel good in the moment, but then you're preventing yourself from relieving that stress in a healthy way for the next 3 days. And one of the tricks I have learned, right, not from a book, but from frequent mistakes, is trying to get in too much before a anticipated or predictable period of stress. So like today, like this morning is a good example for me. I've got swim camp coming up. So you got tonight, you got all day Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a lot of extroverting, a lot of time on deck, a lot of coaching. It's just extra stress. It's not stressful in a bad way. It's just, it's extra. All right. And so this morning I had a run in the schedule, and I knew that I was like, man, you're going to feel good. You're going to want to go hard, to go ahead and get out a hard run, because during the camp, you're not going to have the energy for the hard run. But I've made this mistake before, because what happens is I try to do that and try to sneak one in, and then I don't have any energy to do anything for 2 or 3 days, because I've if we look at our battery, like, of energy that we have to give, whether it's extroverting or whether it's professional or whatever it is, we have a certain amount of energy to give every day, and it's just dispersed through training and conversations and relationships and life stress and whatever it is. And so you want to go into that feeling more refreshed, not at a deficit. And so this morning I went out for was like just about an hour, and I kept it legit zone 1 heart rate the entire time. Added a few pickups at the end. So I said, listen, you want to go into this weekend feeling really good, and you want the run this morning to make you feel more energized and more refreshed, because you are anticipating higher levels of stress. And I've done it before, where I've done it like I've dug myself kind of a hole and reduced my energy levels from 100 to maybe like 80. And then by the time I get to like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 16, 15, 40, and I got no energy to do anything. And so that has been something I've had to learn the hard way, like many things in life, that I think we tend to make these mistakes by trying to sneak in something. And so for me, it's like, hey, if I can just run easy today and run easy every morning while this camp is going, instead of just going on straight depletion, starting out at, again, if I had ran hard this morning, I'm probably going 80, and then I'm just going to deplete, because I'm not going to have any energy to do anything, instead of maybe starting off at 100 tonight, and maybe tomorrow morning I wake up at 85. But if I've got the energy, because my energy is high enough to go out for and do just like a 30, 40 minute, again, super easy. I'm just moving. I'm being outside. I'm in nature. I'm getting good oxygen. And then maybe I bump up from 85 to 90, 95. And I can kind of keep that base level, homeostasis for me, which is in a certain zone, instead of just going all downhill. And I think that's a trap that a lot of us fall into is we try to sneak a lot in before a period of stress, and we go into that predicted period of stress with less resilience. And again, resilience, we talked about a lot recently, isn't just a mindset. It's also about, energy availability. You can't, I mean, everyone can be resilient and motivated and committed and pumped up when you're going off 8.5 hours of sleep and no stress. But when you have tons of stress and you're lacking sleep, it's not as easy to be resilient. It's not as easy to be motivated, right? It's not easy to be committed and consistent. And so I think a lot of times we do these things to ourselves by trying to do too much instead of just trying to hang in. And then when that period passes of high level stress, you've done something, you usually come back out on the other side ready to do, as much or maybe even more than before, because you've been able to kind of balance things out and you've approached it and made your way through in a positive way.
Well, yeah, you mentioned it there. My main thought was that, I kind of think that most 90% of all triathlete struggles come down to bad sleep. And I mean, I think that, especially because she mentioned travel, travel can really be a problem with sleep sometimes. And, just all that kind of thing. But you're right. It's sort of like if you don't get sleep and, I'm just, I don't know. I believe in sleep beyond belief, but I don't take it seriously enough maybe, because sometimes if I don't have to get up early, I'll be like, just sitting around 10. Maybe I'll just watch a 6-hour podcast right now and really get fired up. And then next thing you know, it's like 2 a.m. I didn't sleep well or whatever, for whatever reason. And then, take a nap, whatever. But I think naps actually are kind of my savior sometimes. But it's just so amazing to me that, because like you're saying, sort of that your instinct is to go, I need to go wake my ass up, and you kind of go hard and whatever, and it does feel good because the endorphins fly early, and then you get done and you're kind of like, oh, this might be a bad move. So yeah, it is sort of like, in a weird way, you kind of, when you got a lot coming up and you feel a lot of pressure and stress on you, that it is better to probably just take it easy most of the time and just kind of help your blood flow without getting the heart rate too high. And then, because that just sort of kind of multiplies on top of everything.
Yeah. And I mean, you bring up some great points, and, we discussed this a little bit before we went live, and then a couple of weeks, maybe months ago, about, fueling for health and fueling for life. And I think this falls in the category of training for life and training for health. And instead of feeling like, hey, like I want to, I want to do this and do that and prepare for this race, like instead think of, how is this exercise or movement or, training session going to benefit me in a positive way in just my overall health. And I think that is like just something that we really, really underestimate. We get so caught up in the, training specifics that a lot of times we just forget about the benefits of like how it impacts us in our overall health. And I think it's like, I was talking to this, a father and a son yesterday, and the son had suffered a traumatic brain injury during playing football, and he was a quadriplegic. Anything like, long story short, he did like a half marathon a few weeks ago with his dad out there holding the resistance band to make sure he didn't fall, like, after, 6 or 7 miles, or he'd let him go because he's still like working his way back. And he said that his dad I just was asking him a bunch of questions about his recovery and like how in the hell he was able to like get here. And he said running is just like, has totally improved like his quality of life. He's not just from like how he moves, but he's like, his memory's better. His the way he speaks is better. His muscles are obviously getting stronger. He's happier. He's like, it's just been like this, like really, really amazing, benefit for him that you don't normally see for people that have had this kind of brain injury. And then he said, and for me, he's like, getting him to run has helped me out because both my dads died of heart attacks at 62. And I went to the doctor. They're like, you've got like no cholesterol problems, no calcium buildup in my veins. I'm as healthy as I've ever been in my late 50s, early 60s. And it was, to me, it was just like a huge reminder of how like we get so hyper focused, or overhyped, right, on on the quote unquote training benefit and performance benefit of what we do, and the specifics of it, but we just distance ourselves further from the fact that we do this to be healthy and to feel better and to be more and to be able to withstand life's challenges better. And periods of high stress, high travel, high whatever, this is a great time to just be able to, like I said, kind of tread water, make your way through, come out on the other side, even if you're just a smidge better, even if it's the same, even Doug or Savol, but it's about mitigating stress, and it's about, releasing, or lowering cortisol levels and inflammation, like all these, like this is what we do, right? You can aim low and try to do things right and train and exercise and take care of yourself and fuel well, or you can go to the well and crush yourself for, in a workout, and then get terrible sleep, and then choose a poor breakfast. And then now you've created this vicious cycle, the total other opposite direction. That's going to have a total different trajectory, and you're going to feel worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And so I think like just going back to overarching like general health and what it does for our mind and our body is, I think we underestimate and forget it because we've been doing this for such a long period of time.
Yeah. No doubt.
Tommy B, good old Tommy Bonds. Question: when to step away from long courses and maybe just focus on what your body is allowing you to do?
Immediately.
Similarly to just doing what your schedule allows, I imagine. Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of discussed this on Tuesday. Most people's, their schedule can dictate, the forced step down, to doing more short course stuff, which again already has its challenges from being just really, really, really hard in a whole different way. And so yeah, I think that the podcast on Tuesday probably knocked that out. But it's I'm always a fan of try before you buy, and there's a great way to try that. And when it's this time of year, train and like you're going to do short course and see how that fits in your schedule. And if the end result after a few months, like January, February rolls around, you're like, man, I feel better. I'm getting all my workouts in. I'm getting faster. All my workouts are very reasonable. I can fit everything in and have room for, all these extra things in life. And I'm really having fun doing this, and I'm not stressed, and I'm not worried about getting things in, and I'm not, overhyping a race and, next November. And if you're checking all these boxes that say yes, like why would you insert a no? Like why would you willfully insert one? Again, we talked about it Tuesday, but, I think sometimes stepping away from long course too shouldn't be just about hours in your body. For a lot of people, stepping away from long course means taking a step forward in their ability to be faster by doing shorter things and getting faster and overall stronger, and then going back to long course, a day where it all makes more sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. I think Tommy, it'd be hard for him. I think he likes the long stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's part of who he is, and I kind of feel it's part of who I am in a way where it's sort of the long. It's always the long haul, right? It's kind of metaphorical for life in a sense that you just want to kind of see what you're capable of all the time. So, but like I don't. And we talk about it, sometimes you can train for Olympics or shorter stuff and have similar amounts of time put in, at least that works for me as far as doing Ironman. I may not be at the top of my game all the time, but I'm not like doing insane amounts of volume all the time. even though I say I should, but I don't know. There's like a compromise. I guess it depends on what your outcome wants to be too.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking for an increase in quality of life and removing stress, or are we looking at just, doing it to get faster, or because, your body, and again, I think you said it too, like we all have these tendencies to, I think people fall on certain ends of the spectrum. Like you like to go short and fast, and some people like to grind and go long, and that's just who you are, and I think but having said that, like, when you know what you like, that means you probably avoid some of the things that'll make you better by doing them different, but then will come back and benefit you in what you like to do. It's like a season or two of going short and going fast and removing some of that volume. When you go back to that, which is your favorite, you'll benefit from it. I think this thing is important to note. Doris, balancing the desire. Oof, I'm seeing a lot of this right now. Balancing the desire to want to use the quote unquote off season to work on all three disciplines when you only have the mental bandwidth to do one. Asking for Chuck Newth's friend, hypothetically speaking, of course. Yeah, I'm seeing this every day open up Journey Peaks. And I am 100% on board with it. To me, mental and emotional bandwidth drives the train, and you cannot force anything. Again, we talked about a lot of this on Tuesday, I feel like, but like we're doing, a lot of our athletes doing the run program, run challenge right now, and I light up the week with 6 runs and some strength training, a couple swims, a couple bikes. By the end of the week, all the strength sessions done, all the runs done, 1 bike check, swims 0. It's like they got nothing, and that's just in. Here's the thing: is like that's okay. Like I think accepting that is important, and then so like the next week, usually I just don't even put them on there. And like this is who we are right now. And again, I don't see a problem with it. And now, if it's a problem 6 months out of the year, then we got a problem, right? Because then we're just continuing to distance the things we want to work on, and the delta between where we want to be and where we are. And so I think, again, like, 6 to 8, even 10 weeks, whatever, I'm fine with it. November, December, just run a lot, do some strength training, add in the occasional bike, get your swimming in if you have a really big deficit in it. And let's just get back, like mid-January. But I mean, it's where most people find themselves. And I honestly don't have a problem with it. I think the biggest thing is, and I'll tell Doris this when I see her tonight, is just accepting that that's where you are right now and being okay with it. And I also have, and you do too, troves of, experiences and data from athletes who have gone purposefully, right? Not struggling with the desire and then a different mental bandwidth, right? On one hand, you got the desire mentally to want to do, work on all three, but only the mental bandwidth and execution to do just one. You've got that athlete. And then you have another athlete who they'll just say, hey, listen, I want to really focus on an early season, marathon or long trail race. So I just want to do a ton of running right now, maybe 1 bike, maybe 1 swim, and then I'll pick things back up later. And then we do that, and then they pick things back up February and March, and they're in really, really good shape. And their running is gotten a ton better. They've held on to a little bit of their cycling and swimming. But they get it all back, and they're fitter than they were before after just a couple 4, 8, 12-week blocks. But the difference is one is working in like reality and acceptance, and the other one is working on like denial and hope. And so just accept it. It's totally 100% fine to be that person right now. The most important thing to me is just that you're moving your body 5 to 6 days a week, and you're doing something. Right. And so I think just own it. If that's who you are, I got no problems with it.
Mm. Well, I do think that I can only assume that Doris's only love right now is swimming. because she's going to swim camp.
That would not be true.
She's going to be grumpy. Well, although her Hawkeyes just rolled me last week. So she's probably in a running mood because they were getting like 6.5 yards a carry. So it's, I mean, it is. I talked about last week what I termed the triathletes like hierarchy of desire or something. It's usually we're kind of drawn towards things that are more natural or easier for us, and running is always, even though it's probably the hardest, or sometimes it's the easiest to do, right? You don't have to schlep around with a bunch of gear and stuff like that. And swimming's always hard because you gotta really almost get off the couch, go get your shit, and then drive, and then go get in the water. That's always the hardest. Plus, we're not the best at it, and it's just not as at this time of year, you can. It's hard to keep it up all year. So I'm like that too, because I get to a point where I'm like, I better get my ass in the pool. It's just always not the first thing. And haven't seen many triathletes who gear towards swimming first. That's their number one jam. So, and then obviously cycling, you got to get the bottles and, fuel and get out, dry. So it's just, running seems to be the one. It's like, almost seems like you're taking a little bit of a break or a little vacation from the sport or something. So I get it.
Yeah. And I listen, I encourage it. Be flexible in the fuck around, as we like to say. From Michelle, for those of us in snowier climates, to what extent can you swap out a run or bike for cross-country skiing or snowshoeing? If you do this, should it only be for easier days? Great question.
It's harder days.
And we are getting that time of year. What'd you say?
So those are harder days.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like they're no impact. And I've done this a lot with a few athletes that live in like northern Minnesota and like over in Sweden that do a lot of like cross country races or the Birkie. I mean, and again, this is general. I mean, if you want to cross country ski, I mean, to me, it's still, like you said, it's all about intensity. Like snowshoeing easy is easy. Snowshoeing hard is snowshoeing hard, right? It's no different than running really easy or running really hard or biking really hard or biking. It's all about intensity. To me, if you want at this time of year, you could replace every single easy aerobic ride with easy cross-country skiing. I got no problem. No problem with that. Snowshoeing, it is. I've never done it, but of the athletes that I've had that do it, it is very, 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 very hard. And my only concern with replacing too much cycling and running with cross-country skiing and snowshoeing is the pounding on the body that you get from running that we do want to an extent. And that kind of goes back to increasing the engine and ignoring the chassis. And so that you can't ignore the chassis because, yes, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, cycling, they're insane aerobic and anaerobic workouts. Again, hard is hard, easy is easy, no matter what you're doing. But it's hard. I think it's hard to replace that pounding on the skeletal structure and the ligaments and tendons that you get from running. It's why if you come to the sport and you want to be a runner after years of rowing or swimming or something else, and cycling, you got this gigantic engine, but you have a really significantly weaker chassis. You can't do both to the same extent you would if they were both even. And so I would just be very careful I'd rather you swap out your cycling and just cross country ski, and keep your running, or replace a little bit, but you got to keep the pounding on the run. Not as much, but some. But yeah, I mean, again, I think the biggest thing to remember is hard is hard, easy is easy. It doesn't matter what you're doing, unless there's a huge impact difference on on your body based on the terrain.
Yeah, I can tell you I've had more than one hypoglycemic attack from snowshoeing. Jesus. I don't know. I think I don't think you can go wrong with cross country or snowshoeing for a while here. Personally,
Yeah.
just dial it in.
Glycemic episodes.
Jesus, I had to really regroup.
I mean, it's nothing a good 160 carbs an hour can't cure.
Man, I got to really make sure I'm paying attention to that. It's a little different, man.
Dude, yeah, no thanks. No thanks. Trevor Cowman, how to keep your pace slower when running at night at the woods, and they sound scary. Yeah, man, that's personal.
You can't run
Where
slow at
when
night,
I run,
man.
I've had a few moments here the last few weeks. I get up early and run. It's pitch black dark, and I go run on this trail close to the house. And I mean, I'm used to it now. Like you'll see coyotes, and like you just look out with your headlamp in the woods, and you see 30 beady eyes, and you know that they're deer. And then like a couple weeks ago, I'm like running on the path, and I'm looking up the path, and all I see are two sets of eyes low to the ground, and they're not moving. And they're like moving towards me. They're not running scared. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like two coyotes, like they're coming to play today. My heart skipped a little bit beat. It ran a little bit faster. And then as soon as I got up on him, it was this old dude walking his two golden retrievers. I was like, all right, that makes it feel a bit better. But yeah, it's just kind of one of those things you got to have fun with. And if you need to do a few pickups, you do a few pickups.
Yeah, you just got to run, man.
Yeah, you just got to run. Amelia Van Dyke, how to calculate my 5K handicap if I wear a full feathered turkey costume for the local turkey trot. Thankful for all you do. I've read quite a few research papers on this, and I think that the data coming out right now is it's 2 seconds per feather from the waist up. Feathers from the waist down, not a big deal. Feathers from the waist up, 2 second per feather difference. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, it depends if you shaved your legs. It's all coming into play.
Exactly. I mean, are you wearing like a full head here? Can you see? How long is the beak? I mean, and then you got like the gobbler, swaying left and right. That's also going to kill your aerodynamics. I mean, there's a lot that can go wrong here. You're probably looking to have one of those hyperglycemic attacks Mike's been having when he's out to snowshoe.
Yeah, where's the wind coming from? That matters too.
Another one, yeah, seriously. From Lita.
Right.
Go ahead. You got more?
No. I was just trying to help you get out of here.
Oh, I'm trying to. We got one more. Lita, is there such thing as too much salt in hot Ironman races? Yes, there is.
Come on.
Lita, come on. There is a such thing as too much anything.
Yeah.
There's such thing as too much water. There's such thing as too many calories. And there's definitely such thing as too much salt. I think Dr. Alex, who's been on the podcast, would say that the usual problem is the ratio of fluid to salt that is the most problematic. And so I think a lot of people underhydrate and oversalt or way overhydrate and way undersalt. So it's all about finding that ratio. But yes, there is such thing, especially if you're coming from cooler temps down to 85 degrees in the frying pan that's Panama City for Ironman Florida. But yeah, there is too much. I think we actually covered that. Go back and listen to that Dr. Alex episode. He really broke it down brilliantly. And used a lot more big words than we'll ever use. So, but yeah, take a listen to that.
Brilliant.
That's it. Short, sweet, to the point. Hope you got something out of it today. I know I did, and appreciated the conversation, the questions. As always, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he's available. Mike at c26triathlon.com. Or if you need anything from me, I'm available. Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right,
partner.
Sounds good, man. I'll see you.
Go Badgers.
Have a good weekend. Yeah, go Vols.
That's right. See
Badgers. Playing Oregon.
Oregano.
And tomorrow is the 10th anniversary banner celebration of the Badgers beating Kentucky's undefeated team in the Final Four. So all my Kentucky friends.
Oh, it's a good omen.
Yeah, we're still living on that hype.
Wave.
That was one week, by the way, quickly. That's one game and weekend that lived up to the hype when we beat Kentucky. That was big.
Yeah.
But I haven't had shit since, so you got to balance it out.
Right? It makes you ask yourself, was it worth it?
Well, it makes you ask yourself to remind yourself that these are the good old days, because you never know.
The good old days.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, dude. Check you later.
See ya.